that have COVID have more side effects, just FYI.
Oh, wow.
So he's been running a fever for 2
I
weeks
want you to know,
now.
I came home and I was warm and I was achy. So and it lasted about 24, 48 hours. So
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I was,
Yeah,
Well,
well,
welcome,
hang on for
everybody.
the second one. That's supposed to be a doozy.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe
where
I
would
better.
where would we be if we didn't have something to worry about, right?
Right. No, I was just going to say maybe I ought to get a bottle of wine, and just kind of chill out.
Right, exactly. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to 10 at Noon. It is indeed, for me, it is hard to believe that we are where we are this January 2021. I know that I certainly wouldn't have believed that, given last March or April, that we would be here. Do me a favor, nod your heads if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So I thought this morning, today, the best way to recognize and honor Martin Luther King Day is with Dr. King's words. This first piece is from Letter from a Birmingham Jail. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We can never forget that everything Hitler did in Germany was legal, and everything the Hungarian freedom fighters did in Hungary was illegal. It was illegal to aid and comfort a Jew in Hitler's Germany. But I am sure that if I had lived in Germany during that time, I would have aided and comforted my Jewish brothers, even though it was illegal. If I lived in a totalitarian country today, where certain principles dear to our religious faith are suppressed, I believe I would openly advocate disobeying these anti-religious laws. When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, love evokes willing sacrifice from us. When, to the last measure of selfless devotion, we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives, then you live within our hearts, and we, through righteousness, behold your presence. In 1958, Dr. King wrote and spoke, "In every movement toward freedom, some of the oppressed prefer to remain oppressed. Almost 2,800 years ago, Moses set out to lead the children of Israel from the slavery of Egypt to the freedom of the Promised Land. He soon discovered that slaves do not always welcome their deliverers. They became accustomed to being slaves. They would rather bear those ills they have, as Shakespeare pointed out, than to flee to others that they know not of." And in 1964, in accepting his Nobel Peace Prize, "I refuse to accept despair as the final response to the ambiguities of history. I refuse to accept that the isness of man's response, of man's present nature, makes him morally incapable of reaching up for the eternal oughtness that forever confronts him. I refuse to accept the idea that man is mere flotsam and jetsam in the river of life, unable to influence the unfolding events which surround him. I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the starless midnight of racism and war that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood could never become a reality. Some of you may have heard that this past Friday night, our website host, ShulCloud, went down. It went down because Senator Raphael Warnock was speaking at the Shabbat service of the temple in Atlanta, Georgia. And in response, in order to try to halt or interrupt the webcast, a group of haters, a group of anti-Semites, a group of racists purposefully bombarded the website in order to overwhelm it and push it off track. And they succeeded. There's so much more work to do. Reverend Warnock spoke that night a sermon about finishing the job, getting to the end, to the last mile. As a society, we seem to be failing in those efforts. With vaccines, with ending racism, with properly educating, with fairly distributing the wealth of our world. This is a difficult day, but also a day to be inspired. Close to 400,000 people have lost their lives to COVID. And the weight of these deaths and illnesses are continually unfairly shouldered by far too many people of color. This is the world we live in. It is a world we have benefited from, and it is a world that needs tremendous work. I invite us to channel our prayers of healing and wholeness to our world, to those suffering, and towards the healing of fissures that at times seem deeper than we can even fathom. But it is the work of good people to strive towards tikkun olam. May we continue to do this work. I invite you to write the names of people you're thinking of into the chat if you haven't already done so, as we just ponder these words of prayer. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. V'imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, Huivarech et hacholim, v'yishlach lehem refuat shlema, refuat hanefesh ufuat haguf, b'toch shar cholei Yisrael. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless in wholeness, providing us all with a complete recovery of body and soul and spirit. Inspired towards optimism, fighting against cynicism, and a continual, overwhelming feeling and willingness to ask ourselves, what might it mean to walk in his or her or their shoes? May be inspired on this day by Dr. King's words, and may his memory be a blessing. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your prayers.
Amen.
Thanks, Scott.
Amen.
Glad to see you.
To see you all.
Sandy, hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Well,